The Friday night crowd at O'Malley's pub pressed around us like a living thing. All laughter and warmth and the smell of beer and fried food. My friends and I had claimed our usual corner booth, the worn leather seats molded to our bodies from countless similar nights. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was supposed to be about celebrating my 27th birthday and forgetting about the disaster that had been the past 6 months. "Come on, Emma," my best friend Rachel said, her eyes sparkling with mischief and 3 drinks worth of liquid courage. "It is your birthday. You have to do at least one wild thing tonight." "I already did a wild thing," I protested, gesturing to the tight red dress I had let her talk me into wearing. "This dress has no back. I am practically naked." "You look hot," my other friend Jen interjected. "That ex-boyfriend of yours is probably crying into his pillow right now, imagining you looking like this. I doubt Marcus is thinking about me at all," I said, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. He was too busy with his new girlfriend, the one he had been seeing for 3 months before he bothered to break up with me, the one who was 22 and blonde and everything I was not. "Exactly," Rachel said, leaning forward with that look she got when she was about to suggest something terrible. "Which is why you need to get back out there. Talk to someone new. Remind yourself that you are gorgeous and interesting, and any man would be lucky to have your attention." "I am not ready to date," I said firmly. "It has only been 6 months." "I am not saying date," Rachel replied. "I am saying flirt. Just have a conversation with a guy. Any guy." She looked around the crowded pub, her eyes scanning the various groups of people. Then her gaze landed on something that made her face light up with unholy glee. Him. Talk to him. I followed her pointing finger to a man sitting alone at the far end of the bar. Even from across the room, I could tell he was different from the usual O'Malley's crowd. He wore a dark suit that even my untrained eye could recognize as expensive, the jacket draped over the back of his bar stool. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Dark hair, slightly longer than was currently fashionable, curled at the nape of his neck. He sat with his back to the wall, one hand wrapped around a glass of what looked like whiskey, his attention fixed on nothing in particular. But it was his face that made my breath catch. Even in profile, I could see the sharp line of his jaw, the straight nose, the full lips that somehow managed to look both sensual and stern. He was beautiful in a way that was almost intimidating. "Absolutely not," I said, dragging my eyes away from him. "He is way out of my league." "There are no leagues," Jen said. "Only people who are brave enough to go after what they want, and people who are not. Besides," Rachel added with a wicked grin, "I dare you." I stared at her. "You did not just dare me. I absolutely did." Her smile was pure challenge. "Come on, Emma. When was the last time you did something spontaneous? Something brave?" I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it again. She had a point. For the past 6 months, I had been playing it safe. Going to work at the library, coming home to my tiny apartment, avoiding anything that might lead to more hurt or disappointment. I had become small and careful and boring, and I hated it. "Fine," I heard myself say, the wine making me bolder than I would normally be. "But if he shoots me down, you are buying my drinks for the next month." "Deal," Rachel said immediately, her grin widening. "But he is not going to shoot you down. Look at you. You are a goddess." I was not a goddess. I was a slightly drunk librarian in a dress that made me feel exposed and vulnerable, but I was also tired of being afraid, tired of letting Marcus's betrayal define me. So I stood up on legs that felt unsteady, smoothed down my dress, and made my way across the crowded pub toward the man at the bar. With each step, my courage wavered. What was I doing? I did not approach strange men in bars. I did not wear backless dresses. I did not do spontaneous or brave. But then I was there, standing next to him, and it was too late to turn back. Up close, he was even more striking. Tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a lean, powerful build that his expensive clothes could not quite hide. His face was all sharp angles and strong features, saved from being too harsh by surprisingly long eyelashes and a mouth that looked like it might be generous when it smiled. He did not look up as I approached, seemingly lost in thought as he swirled the amber liquid in his glass. "Is this seat taken?" I asked, my voice coming out steadier than I felt. He turned to look at me, and I nearly took a step back from the intensity of his gaze. His eyes were a dark, stormy gray, the color of the ocean before a storm. They swept over me in a single assessing glance that made me feel simultaneously seen and completely transparent. "It is now," he said, his voice a low rumble with just a hint of an accent I could not quite place. "Italian, maybe? Please sit." He gestured to the stool beside him, and I climbed onto it with as much grace as I could manage in my tight dress and heels. Up close, I caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made my stomach do an unexpected flip. "I am Emma," I said, extending my hand. He took it, his palm warm and slightly rough against mine, his grip firm but careful. "Luca." We shook hands, and I was acutely aware of how long the contact lasted, how his thumb brushed across my knuckles before he released me. "So, Luca," I said, trying to channel the confidence I did not feel. "What brings you to O'Malley's on a Friday night? You do not exactly look like you belong here." One dark eyebrow rose slightly. "Where do I look like I belong?" "Somewhere with white tablecloths and wine lists longer than my arm," I replied, then immediately wanted to take it back. That had sounded judgmental, not flirty. But Luca's lips curved into a small smile, the first real expression I had seen on his face. "Fair enough. I do prefer quieter establishments, but sometimes it is good to be around people, even if you are not with them." There was something in the way he said it that made my chest tighten. A loneliness that I recognized because I had been feeling it myself for months. "I know what you mean," I said quietly. "Being alone in a crowd can be easier than being alone by yourself." His eyes sharpened on me, as if I had said something surprising. "Exactly." He took a sip of his whiskey, studying me over the rim of his glass. "And what brings you here, Emma? Besides approaching strangers at bars?" I felt my face heat. "My friends dared me to talk to you." The truth came out before I could stop it, the wine loosening my tongue. "They think I need to be more spontaneous, more brave." "And what do you think?" "I think they are probably right. I have spent the last 6 months playing it safe, avoiding anything that might hurt me. It is exhausting." "What happened 6 months ago?" I hesitated, then decided that honesty was working so far. My boyfriend of 3 years cheated on me, then left me for someone younger and blonder. It was not exactly great for my confidence. "He was a fool," Luca said simply, with such conviction that I believed him. "You do not even know me," I pointed out. "Maybe I was a terrible girlfriend." "Were you?" "No," I admitted. "I was supportive and faithful, and I loved him. But apparently, that was not enough. Then he was definitely a fool." Luca's eyes held mine. "Any man who would choose someone else over you is not worth your tears or your time." The compliment, delivered so matter-of-factly, made warmth bloom in my chest. "Thank you. I do not know why, but I needed to hear that." The bartender appeared, and Luca ordered another whiskey for himself and, after glancing at me questioningly, a glass of wine for me. I should have protested, should have insisted on buying my own drink. But something about the way he did it, casual and without expectation, made me accept. "So tell me about yourself, Emma," he said once our drinks arrived. "Besides the fact that you are brave enough to approach strangers when dared, and that your ex-boyfriend was an idiot." I laughed, surprised by how easy it felt. "There is not much to tell. I am a librarian. I live in a tiny apartment with a cat named Darcy. I read too much and socialized too little. Very boring. I doubt that. His gaze was intent. What do you read? Everything, I said, warming to the topic. Classic literature, modern fiction, mystery, romance. I am not picky. I just love stories. Love the way a good book can transport you somewhere else entirely. An escape, he said thoughtfully. Sometimes. But also just the joy of experiencing other lives, other perspectives. Books make the world bigger. We talked for what felt like minutes, but must have been over an hour. Luca asked about my work, about my favorite books, about what I wanted from life. And I found myself opening up to him in a way I had not with anyone in months. There was something about him that made me feel safe, seen in a way that had nothing to do with the physical and everything to do with the way he listened, really listened, to everything I said. In turn, he told me about his own love of reading, mostly history and philosophy, about growing up in Italy and moving to the United States as a teenager, about his work, which he described vaguely as business and investments. He was guarded in a way that should have put me off, but instead intrigued me. There were depths to Luca Moretti that I wanted to explore. Your friends are staring at us, he said suddenly, a hint of amusement in his voice. I glanced over at the booth where Rachel and Jen sat, their eyes wide as they watched us. When they saw me looking, they gave exaggerated thumbs up. They are not subtle, I said with a laugh. They have been trying to get me to date again for months. I think they are thrilled that I am actually talking to someone. And are you? Talking to me because they dared you, or because you want to? The directness of the question caught me off guard. I met his eyes, those stormy gray depths that seemed to see right through me. Both, I admitted. I started because of the dare. But I am staying because I want to. Good, he said simply. Because I am very glad you approached me tonight, Emma. The way he said my name, with that slight Italian accent wrapping around the syllables, made my stomach flutter. I took a sip of wine to cover my reaction. Can I ask you something? I said after a moment. Anything. Why were you sitting here alone? A man who looks like you, who talks like you. You could have your pick of company. Why the solitary drinking? Something flickered across his face, there and gone too quickly to identify. Sometimes solitude is safer than company. When you let people close, you risk them seeing parts of yourself you would rather keep hidden. The vulnerability in his words matched my own feelings so perfectly that I reached out without thinking, my hand covering his on the bar. I understand that more than you know. He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers with mine, and we sat like that for a long moment. Two strangers connected by shared loneliness and the surprising comfort of an unexpected conversation. Come with me, he said suddenly, standing and pulling me gently to my feet. Let me take you somewhere quieter, where we can actually hear each other think. I should have said no. Every safety lesson I had ever learned screamed at me not to leave with a stranger, no matter how attractive or seemingly sincere. But there was something about Luca that made me trust him, made me want to take the risk. Let me tell my friends, I said. Of course. I walked back to the booth where Rachel and Jen waited with barely contained excitement. I am leaving, I said quietly. With him. Rachel's eyes went wide. Emma, we were just joking about the dare. You do not have to actually leave with him. I know, but I want to. I pulled out my phone. I am texting you his name, and I will check in every hour. If you do not hear from me, call the police. His name is Luca Moretti, I added, showing them my phone screen where I had typed it out. Jen grabbed my phone and quickly took a photo of Luca standing by the bar, then texted it to herself. For safety, she said. Be careful, Rachel said, her expression serious now. But also, have fun. You deserve it. I hugged them both, then made my way back to Luca, who helped me into my coat with old-fashioned courtesy that seemed natural on him. Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. a driver standing beside it. Luca opened the back door for me, and I slid inside, the leather seats soft and expensive beneath me. This was not a taxi or an Uber. This was the kind of car that spoke of serious wealth. "Where are we going?" I asked, as Luca settled beside me and the car pulled away from the curb. "A place I think you will like," he said mysteriously. "Trust me, I barely know you." "I know, but sometimes the best connections happen between strangers. No history, no expectations. Just two people being honest with each other." He had a point. And honestly, after 6 months of playing it safe, the recklessness felt good. The car drove for about 20 minutes, taking us out of the busy downtown area and into a quieter neighborhood I did not recognize. We pulled up in front of what looked like an old warehouse that had been converted into something else, the brick facade lit by subtle landscape lighting. Luca helped me from the car and led me to a heavy metal door, which opened at his knock to reveal a small, intimate space that took my breath away. It was a speakeasy, I realized, the kind of hidden gem that most people never knew existed. The lighting was low and warm, the decor all dark wood and vintage leather. But what caught my attention was the wall of bookshelves that lined one side of the room, filled with what looked like first editions and rare volumes. "This is incredible," I breathed, moving toward the books like a moth to flame. "I thought you might appreciate it," Luca said, his voice warm with pleasure at my reaction. "The owner is a friend. He specializes in rare books and excellent whiskey. It is perfect." We settled into a private booth in the back corner, and a server appeared with menus and drink recommendations. I ordered a cocktail called the Librarian's Secret, which made Luca smile. He ordered his whiskey neat, a brand I did not recognize but that the server treated with reverence. "This is not your first time here," I observed. "I come here when I need to think," he admitted, "or when I need to remember that there is beauty in the world beyond business and obligations. You sound like you carry a lot of weight on your shoulders." His expression became guarded. "My work is demanding. It requires constant vigilance, constant decision-making. Sometimes I forget that there is more to life than responsibilities." "What do you do exactly?" I asked. "You have been vague about your business." "I own several companies," he said carefully. "Import-export, real estate, investments. It is complicated and often boring. Somehow I doubt anything about you is boring." His lips curved in a half-smile. "You might be surprised. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing as easily as the drinks. Luca was intelligent and well-read, able to discuss everything from classic literature to current events with insight and humor. He asked thoughtful questions and really listened to my answers, making me feel like everything I said mattered. But there were also moments when I caught glimpses of something else beneath the charming surface, a hardness in his eyes when he thought I was not looking, a tension in his shoulders that spoke of burdens carried, questions he deflected with skill that spoke of long practice at keeping secrets. I should have been more cautious, should have recognized the warning signs. But I was caught up in the magic of the evening, in the heady feeling of connecting with someone who seemed to see me, really see me, in a way that Marcus never had. "It is late," Luca said eventually, glancing at his watch. "Or rather early. It is past 3 a.m. I stared at him in shock. "No way. We've been here for 6 hours. Time moves differently in good company," he said softly. "But I should get you home. You need rest." "I do not want this night to end," I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "It does not have to," he said, his eyes intense on mine. "Not if you do not want it to." The implication hung between us, charged and dangerous. I knew what he was offering, knew what would happen if I said yes. Every rational part of my brain told me to say no, to go home alone, to not complicate a magical evening with physical intimacy. But I was tired of being rational, tired of being careful, and I wanted Luca Moretti with an intensity that shocked me. "Take me to your place," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Something flared in his eyes, hot and hungry. Are you sure? I have not been sure of anything in months, I admitted. But right now, in this moment, I am sure I want to be with you. He stood and offered me his hand, and I took it, letting him lead me from the speakeasy and back into the waiting car. The drive to his place was silent but charged, his hand holding mine, his thumb tracing patterns on my palm that made my breath quicken. His apartment was in one of the most exclusive buildings in the city, the kind of place with a doorman and marble floors, and the faint scent of money in the air. The penthouse, of course. We rode the elevator up in tense silence, both of us knowing what was about to happen. The apartment was stunning, all floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city, modern furniture that managed to be both stylish and comfortable, and more books than I had seen outside of a library. But I barely had time to take it in before Luca pulled me into his arms and kissed me. It was nothing like the tentative first kisses I was used to. This was consuming, demanding, a kiss that stole my breath and my thoughts and left only sensation. His hands tangled in my hair, his body pressed against mine, and I melted into him with a hunger I had not known I possessed. We barely made it to the bedroom. Clothes fell away, landing in a trail across the hardwood floors. And then we were on his bed, skin against skin, and everything else ceased to matter. Luca was a skilled lover, attentive and passionate, bringing me to heights I had not known existed. But what struck me most was the way he looked at me, like I was precious and desired and utterly captivating. In his arms I felt beautiful and powerful, and completely myself. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. I should have felt awkward or uncertain. This was a one-night stand with a virtual stranger, after all. But instead, I felt peaceful, content in a way I had not felt in longer than I could remember. Stay, Luca murmured against my hair. Stay the night with me. I lifted my head to look at him. Is that what you want? More than I have wanted anything in a long time, he admitted. I know this is fast. I know we just met. But Emma, I do not want this to end with tonight. My heart stuttered in my chest. What are you saying? I am saying I want to see you again. Tomorrow, if you will let me. And the day after that. I am saying that I have not connected with someone like this in years, maybe ever, and I am not ready to let it go. I barely know you, I whispered. Then let me change that. Let me take you to dinner tomorrow. A proper date, not just a chance encounter in a bar. I should have said no, should have recognized that this was too much too fast, that I was setting myself up for heartbreak. But looking into those stormy gray eyes, I could not make myself care about should. Yes, I said. Yes, I want to see you again. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face from handsome to devastating. Then sleep, Bella. We will have time to talk tomorrow. I drifted off in his arms, feeling safer and more content than I had in months, blissfully unaware of the truth about the man holding me. Unaware that Luca Moretti was not just a wealthy businessman, but one of the most powerful and dangerous men in the city. And by the time I learned the truth, I would already be in far too deep to walk away. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the scent of coffee brewing. For a disoriented moment, I had no idea where I was. Then the previous night came rushing back. The pub, the dare, Luca and I sat up with a gasp, clutching the sheet to my chest. The bedroom was even more stunning in daylight, all clean lines and expensive furnishings with a view that overlooked the entire city. My dress and shoes were neatly arranged on a chair near the door, along with what looked like a shirt that was definitely not mine. Good morning. I turned to find Luca standing in the doorway, wearing black pajama pants and nothing else. In the morning light, I could see details I had missed the night before. the defined muscles of his chest and abdomen, a scar that ran along his left side, faded but still visible, and tattoos, intricate designs that covered his left shoulder and upper arm, the imagery dark and somehow ominous. "Morning," I managed, suddenly shy despite the intimacy we had shared just hours before. "I brought coffee," he said, holding up 2 mugs, "and I laid out a shirt for you, if you would prefer not to wear that dress home." "Thank you." I accepted the coffee gratefully, taking a sip of the perfectly prepared brew. "You remembered how I take it." "I pay attention," he said, settling on the edge of the bed but maintaining a respectful distance. "How are you feeling? Honestly, a little overwhelmed. I do not usually do this kind of thing." "Neither do I," he admitted. "Last night was unusual for me in many ways." I studied him over my coffee mug. "How so?" "I do not typically bring women to my home. I do not usually spend hours talking with strangers, and I definitely do not ask them to stay." "Why did you this time?" He was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "Because something about you felt different. From the moment you approached me at that bar, I felt drawn to you in a way I have not felt in years." The honesty in his voice made my chest tight. I felt it too. I still feel it. "Good." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture tender. "Then you will have dinner with me tonight?" "I have to work," I said reluctantly. "But I could meet you after. Say 7 o'clock? "Perfect." He stood. "I will let you get ready. The bathroom is through there, and please, help yourself to anything you need." After he left, I took my time showering in his luxurious bathroom, using his expensive shampoo and soap, borrowing his toothbrush because my breath probably smelled like death. By the time I emerged, dressed in my tight dress from the night before, I felt almost human again. I found Luca in the kitchen, making breakfast with the ease of someone comfortable in his space. He had put on a shirt, though it hung open, giving me tantalizing glimpses of the skin beneath. "I made French toast," he said, plating the food with a precision that spoke of practice. "I hope you are hungry." "Starving," I admitted, settling onto one of the bar stools at his kitchen island. We ate in comfortable silence, and I marveled at how easy this felt, how natural. With Marcus, I had always felt like I was performing, trying to be the woman he wanted. But with Luca, I could just be myself. After breakfast, he insisted on having his driver take me home. As the car pulled up in front of my modest apartment building, Luca took my hand. "I will pick you up at 7, he said. "Wear something comfortable. I have an idea for our date." "Not going to tell me what it is?" "Where is the fun in that?" His eyes sparkled with mischief, and I realized I had never seen him look so relaxed, so young. I kissed him goodbye, unable to resist, then practically floated up to my apartment. My cat Darcy greeted me with annoyed meows, clearly displeased that I had been gone all night. I fed him and collapsed on my couch, pulling out my phone to find approximately 37 messages from Rachel and Jen. The most recent one read, "If you are not dead, you better call us immediately with all the details." I laughed and hit the call button. Rachel answered on the first ring. "Thank God," she said. "We were about to file a missing persons report." "Where have you been?" "With Luca," I admitted. I spent the night at his place. Rachel screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Jen joined the call seconds later, and they both demanded every detail. I told them most of it, leaving out the more intimate parts but describing the speakeasy and Luca's apartment and the way he made me feel seen and valued. "This sounds like a fairy tale," Jen said when I finished. "Are you sure he is not too good to be true?" The question made me pause. Was he? I barely knew him, and yet I was already falling for him in a way that should have terrified me. "I am seeing him again tonight," I said. "Maybe I will learn more about him." "Just be careful," Rachel cautioned. I Googled his name and there is not much information, just some mentions of his businesses. For someone who owns multiple companies, he keeps a very low profile. Maybe he is just private, I suggested, though her words planted a seed of unease. After I hung up, I tried to sleep, but my mind would not settle, so instead, I did what Rachel had done and Googled Luca Moretti. The results were sparse. A few business filings showing him as the owner of various companies. One photo from a charity gala 3 years ago, showing him in a tuxedo looking devastating and slightly bored. Nothing about his personal life, no social media presence, no interviews or profiles. It was strange. In an age where everyone had a digital footprint, Luca barely existed online. That should have worried me more than it did. But when 7 o'clock came and he knocked on my door, looking effortlessly handsome in dark jeans and a leather jacket, all my concerns melted away. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warm as they traveled over my simple jeans and sweater combo. "You said to dress comfortable, and you nailed it. Come on, I have something special planned." The car took us out of the city, into the surrounding countryside as the sun set in brilliant oranges and purples. About an hour later, we pulled up to what looked like a farm. "Where are we?" I asked as Luca helped me from the car. "A friend of mine runs an animal sanctuary," he explained. "He owes me a favor, so I arranged for a private tour. I thought you might enjoy it." I stared at him in disbelief. "You brought me to an animal sanctuary for our first date? You mentioned last night that you love animals, but your apartment is too small for anything besides a cat. I thought this might be a good compromise." His expression was uncertain. Was I wrong? "No," I said, my eyes filling with unexpected tears. "This is perfect." For the next 2 hours, we walked through the sanctuary, meeting rescued horses and donkeys, feeding goats and sheep, even holding baby rabbits that had been found abandoned. Luca was gentle with the animals, patient and kind in a way that made my heart expand. "This is the best date I have ever been on," I told him as we sat on a fence overlooking a pasture where several horses grazed in the twilight. "I am glad." He pulled me close, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "You deserve thoughtful dates, Emma. You deserve someone who pays attention to what makes you happy. Is that what you want to be? Someone who makes me happy?" "If you will let me," he said seriously. "I know it is fast. I know we barely know each other. But I cannot remember the last time I felt this way about someone." "What way?" "Like I want to know everything about you. Like I want to be the reason you smile. Like I would do whatever it takes to keep you in my life." His intensity should have scared me. Instead, it thrilled me. "I feel the same way," I whispered. He kissed me there on the fence, soft and sweet and full of promise. And I fell a little more in love with this man I barely knew. Over the next few weeks, Luca and I fell into a rhythm. He would pick me up after work, and we would have dinner or go to a museum or simply walk through the city, talking for hours. On weekends, he would plan elaborate dates, each one tailored to my interests. A private viewing at an art gallery, a cooking class where we made pasta from scratch, a concert by my favorite string quartet. He was attentive and romantic, remembering everything I told him and using that information to make me feel special. But there were also moments that gave me pause, like the time we were having dinner at a restaurant and a man approached our table, clearly wanting to talk to Luca. One look from Luca, cold and dangerous, had the man backing away with a stammered apology. Or the constant presence of his driver, who I realized was much more than just someone who drove the car. Marco was always nearby, always watching, his hand often resting near his jacket, in a way that suggested he was armed. Or the phone calls Luca would take in another room, speaking rapid Italian in a tone that was nothing like the gentle way he spoke to me. I knew I should ask questions, should demand to know more about his business, about why he needed a bodyguard, about the shadows that sometimes crossed his face. But I was afraid of the answers, afraid that learning the truth would shatter the beautiful bubble we had created. 2 months into our relationship, Luca asked me to move in with him. It was too soon, too fast, but I said yes anyway, because I could not imagine going back to my lonely apartment when I could wake up in his arms every morning. Rachel and Jen threw me a going-away party at O'Malley's, back at the booth where this had all started. As I looked at the bar stool where I had first seen Luca, I marveled at how much my life had changed from a single dare. "I am happy for you," Rachel said, though her eyes were worried. "But, Em, are you sure about this? Moving in after 2 months? You still do not know much about what he does for a living." "I know enough," I said defensively. "I know that he treats me better than anyone ever has. I know that he makes me happy." "Just promise me you will be careful," she said. "Something about him sets off my instincts, and I cannot figure out what it is." I promised, though I had no intention of being careful. I was in love, truly deeply in love for the first time in my life, and nothing was going to make me question that. Moving into Luca's penthouse was like entering a different world. I had my own closet, bigger than my entire bedroom had been. My own bathroom with a soaking tub and a shower that had settings I did not understand, and access to his extensive library, which he encouraged me to treat as my own. But I also noticed things I had not seen during my previous visits. The locked room that he never mentioned. The way certain people would visit late at night, meeting with Luca in his study with the door closed. The occasional injuries he would come home with, minor but telling. A split knuckle, a bruised ribs. Once, a cut above his eye that he claimed was from a business dispute gone wrong. I was living with a stranger, I realized. A beautiful, charming stranger who loved me and treated me like a queen. But a stranger nonetheless. The truth came crashing down 3 months after I moved in the worst way possible. I had left work early, feeling sick from what I thought was a stomach bug, but as I drove closer to home, I realized I had forgotten my key card to access the penthouse. So instead of going straight up, I went to the building's management office to get a temporary one. That was when I saw the police cars. 3 unmarked vehicles were parked discreetly near the back entrance, and as I watched, a group of men in suits entered the building, badges visible on their belts. FBI. My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone and called Luca with shaking hands. He answered immediately. "Bella, what is wrong?" "There are FBI agents entering your building," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Luca, what is going on? Where are you?" His voice was sharp now, all business. "In my car, in the parking garage. Stay there. Do not go to the penthouse. I am sending Marco to get you. Luca, you are scaring me. What is happening?" There was a long pause. Then he said, "I will explain everything. I promise. But right now, I need you to trust me and do exactly as I say." Marco appeared minutes later, his expression grim. He drove me to a location I did not recognize, an upscale hotel where a room had already been prepared. "Mr. Moretti will be here soon," he said. "Please wait for him." I sat in that hotel room for 3 hours, my mind racing with possibilities, each worse than the last. When Luca finally arrived, he looked exhausted and grim. "Tell me the truth," I said before he could speak. "All of it. Right now." He sank into the chair across from me, his head in his hands for a long moment. Then he looked up, and I saw resignation in his eyes. "My family has been involved in organized crime for 4 generations, he began. "I inherited the organization when I was 28, after my father was killed by a rival family. Everything I told you about my businesses was true. I do own import-export companies, real estate, investments, but I also control illegal operations. Gambling, loan sharking, protection." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You are in the Mafia." "Yes." His voice was flat. "I am what they call a boss. I run one of the largest criminal organizations in the city, And you did not think to tell me this before I moved in with you? My voice was rising, hysteria creeping in. Before I fell in love with you. I wanted to tell you, he said desperately. So many times I almost did, but I was afraid of losing you. So you lied to me instead. You let me think you were just a businessman. You let me build my life around you without knowing the truth. I never lied to you, he protested. I just did not tell you everything. That is the same thing, I shouted, standing up. Do you have any idea how this makes me feel? How stupid I feel for not seeing it? The bodyguards, the late-night meetings, the way people are afraid of you. It was all right there, and I ignored it because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. Emma, please. He stood too, reaching for me. I stepped back. Do not touch me. I need to think. The FBI has been investigating me for months, he said. They do not have enough to arrest me, but they are watching, which means anyone close to me is in danger. My stomach dropped. Am I in danger? I will protect you, he said fiercely. I have people watching you at all times. No one will touch you. That is not what I asked. I wrapped my arms around myself. I asked if I am in danger because of you, because of what you do. Potentially, yes, he admitted. My enemies might see you as a weakness, something they could use against me. I felt like I was going to be sick. I need to leave. I need to go home. You cannot go back to the penthouse, he said. The FBI is probably watching it, and I do not want you going back to your old apartment. It is not safe. If you're enjoying Emma and Luca's story so far, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to see what happens next. Will Emma be able to forgive Luca for his deception? Can their love survive the dangerous world he's brought her into? Keep watching to find out. I am not asking for your permission, I said coldly. I am telling you I am leaving. Then let me at least get you somewhere safe, he pleaded. Let me make sure you are protected while you figure out what you want to do. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Marco drove me to another hotel, this one even more luxurious than the first. Luca had apparently rented me a suite indefinitely, complete with security posted discreetly in the hallway. I will give you space, Luca said as he prepared to leave. But Emma, please know that everything between us was real. My feelings for you, the time we spent together, that was all genuine. The only thing I hid was my business. Your business is who you are, I said bitterly. You cannot separate the two. After he left, I collapsed on the bed and cried until I had no tears left. The man I loved was a criminal. Everything I thought I knew about him was built on a foundation of half-truths and omissions. How could I ever trust him again? But even as I raged and grieved, a traitorous part of my heart whispered that I still loved him. That the man who had brought me to an animal sanctuary, who had remembered how I took my coffee, who had looked at me like I was precious, that man was real too. And I did not know how to reconcile the two versions of Luca Moretti that existed in my mind. I spent 3 days in that hotel room, ignoring Luca's calls and texts, trying to figure out what to do. Rachel and Jen came to visit, having been filled in on the situation by me and a tearful phone call. They were appropriately horrified and supportive, holding me while I cried and offering to help me move far away if that was what I wanted. But was it what I wanted? To run away and start over again. To leave behind the man I loved because his world was too dark. On the 4th day, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find not Luca, but an older woman I had never seen before. She was elegantly dressed, with silver hair and eyes that were a familiar stormy gray. You must be Emma, she said in accented English. I am Sophia Moretti, Luca's mother. I stared at her in shock. Luca had mentioned his mother exactly once, saying only that she lived in Italy. Please come in, I said, stepping back. She entered gracefully, settling into one of the suite's chairs with the air of someone accustomed to luxury. "My son is miserable," she said without preamble. "He has not eaten in days, barely sleeps. His men are worried about him. With all due respect, Mrs. Moretti, that is not my problem. He lied to me. He protected you," she corrected gently. "There is a difference. Is there?" I sat across from her. "Because from where I am sitting, he let me fall in love with him without telling me the truth about who he is." Sophia studied me with those eyes so like her son's. "Let me tell you a story," she said. "When I met Luca's father, I was 19 years old, working as a waitress in Naples. He was the most handsome man I had ever seen, charming and attentive. We were married within 6 months." She paused, her expression distant. "It was not until after the wedding that I learned the truth about his family, about the business. I was furious, betrayed, exactly as you are now. I packed my bags and prepared to leave. But you did not, I guessed. No. Because he came to me and he did something no man in his position had ever done. He told me everything. Every dark corner of his life, every sin he had committed, every danger that came with his name. And then he gave me a choice. Stay, knowing the truth, or go, with enough money to start a new life far away. What did you choose?" "I chose to stay. Because beneath the criminal, I saw a man trying to do right by his people, trying to protect those who depended on him. I saw a man who loved me enough to risk losing me by being honest." She leaned forward. "My son is like his father in many ways. But in this, he is different. He loves you so much that he was terrified to tell you the truth, afraid that you would leave him." "But that is exactly what has happened," I pointed out. "No, you have not left. You are here, thinking, trying to decide. If you had truly left, you would be halfway across the country by now." She had a point. "I am afraid," I admitted, "of his world, of what being with him means." "Fear is healthy," Sophia said. "It keeps you cautious. But Emma, my son will protect you with his life. He will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. The question is whether you love him enough to trust him." After she left, I sat alone with my thoughts. Did I love Luca enough to trust him? Did I love him enough to accept the darkness that came with the light? That night, I called him. His voice when he answered was hoarse, desperate. "Emma." "I want to talk," I said, face to face. "Can you come here?" He arrived within 20 minutes, looking worse than I had ever seen him. His clothes were rumpled, his hair disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. He looked like a man who had been through hell. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, standing awkwardly in the doorway as if afraid to come closer. "Sit down," I said gently. He sank onto the couch, his hands clasped between his knees. "I am so sorry, Emma. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I should have given you the choice of whether to be with me, knowing what I am." "Yes, you should have," I agreed. "But I also understand why you did not. You were afraid of losing me. That is no excuse." "No, it is not." I took a breath. "Your mother came to see me." He looked up sharply. "She did. She told me about your father, about how she chose to stay despite learning the truth. She said you would protect me. I would die before I let anything happen to you," he said fiercely. "Emma, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. You make me want to be better, to find a way out of this life. But I cannot just walk away. Too many people depend on me." "I am not asking you to walk away," I said quietly. "I am asking you to be honest with me, about everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. Anything you want to know, I will tell you," he promised. "Ask me anything." So I did. For the next several hours, I asked him about his business, about the illegal operations, about the violence inherent in his world. And he answered every question honestly, not trying to justify or minimize, just telling me the truth. It was ugly. It was frightening. It was everything I had feared and more. But it was also honest. And honesty, I was learning, was the foundation that everything else had to be built on. "I need time," I said when he had finished. "Time to process all of this, to decide if I can live with it." "Take all the time you need," he said. "I will wait. And if I decide I cannot do this?" Pain flashed across his face, but he said, "Then I will let you go. I will make sure you are safe and provided for. And I will let you go. Because I love you enough to want you to be happy, even if that happiness does not include me." The certainty in his voice, the acceptance that he might lose me, somehow made me more certain of what I wanted. "I do not need time," I heard myself say. "I already know my answer." He went very still. "And what is your answer?" "I choose you," I said. "I choose us. But Luca, if you ever lie to me again, if you ever hide something important from me, I will leave and you will never get me back. Do you understand?" "Yes," he breathed, hope flooding his features. "God, Emma, yes, I understand." "Then come here and kiss me," I said, "because I have missed you." He crossed the space between us in 2 strides, pulling me into his arms and kissing me with a desperation that took my breath away. And I kissed him back, choosing love over fear, choosing the complicated truth over the beautiful lie. It was not a fairy tale ending. It was messy and complicated and came with dangers I was still afraid of. But it was real. And real, I was learning, was worth fighting for. The next few months were an adjustment. Luca kept his promise about honesty, telling me about his business dealings even when the truth was uncomfortable. I learned about the legitimate operations he was expanding, his efforts to slowly transition away from the illegal activities. I met his associates, learning to navigate the dangerous world he inhabited. It was terrifying at times. There were threats from rival families, close calls that left my heart in my throat. But there was also love and partnership, and the growing certainty that I had made the right choice. Luca proposed 6 months after I chose to stay. Not with a grand gesture, but with a simple question asked in the quiet of our bedroom. "Will you marry me?" Knowing exactly what that means. And I said yes, because I loved him. Not despite who he was, but because of it. All of it. The darkness and the light. The criminal, and the man who brought me to animal sanctuaries and remembered how I took my coffee. Our wedding was small and private, just close family and trusted friends. Sophia cried throughout the ceremony, welcoming me officially into the family. And as I stood across from Luca, promising to love him for better or worse, I knew that we would face plenty of both. But we would face it together, honestly, and that made all the difference. Looking back, I marveled at how a simple dare in a crowded pub had changed my entire life. If Rachel had not challenged me to talk to the lonely man at the bar, if I had not been brave enough to approach him, if Luca had not been there that exact night. So many what-ifs that had led to this moment, to this life, to this love. Was it perfect? No. We still argued, still struggled with the complications of his world. But it was real. And it was ours. And I would not change a single moment of it. 5 years later, I stood in that same pub, O'Malley's, with Rachel and Jen, celebrating Rachel's birthday this time. The corner booth we had claimed was the same, the atmosphere familiar and warm. "Your turn," I said to Rachel, nodding toward a man sitting alone at the bar. "I dare you." She laughed. "Not all of us can get a fairy tale from a random dare, Em." It was not a fairy tale, I corrected. It was real life, messy and complicated. But it was worth it. My phone buzzed with a text from Luca. "Missing you. Come home soon." I smiled, typing back. "On my way. Love you." As I said goodbye to my friends and headed out into the night, I thought about the woman I had been 5 years ago. Lost and heartbroken, afraid to take risks. And I thought about the woman I had become. Strong and loved. Brave enough to choose the complicated truth over the comfortable lie. That dare had given me more than a relationship. It had given me a chance to be brave. To be honest. To be myself. And I would forever be grateful that I had taken it. If you've made it this far in Emma and Luca's story, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed their journey from a simple dare to a complicated but beautiful love, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting me know what you thought. Have you ever taken a chance on someone unexpected? I'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, keep believing in the power of being brave enough to say yes to the unknown. The end.